All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Beyond the Trail podcast. We are here. I know it's been quite some time. It feels like forever since we have been live with you all, but we are here with our fourth installment of our Director's Cut series. Behind the scenes footage, some behind the scenes chat from our film, Safe and Found, brought to you by our company, Jester Wallis Productions. I am 50% of Jester Wallis Productions, Julie Gayhart. Right here beside me is the other 50%. We've got Austin Wallis in the house. Austin, how are you?
What is going on? It's been a little too long.
Yeah.
Real life kind of got in the way. That's why this episode's a little delayed. We were supposed to do this, I guess, last month, and everything all happened at once in real life, and so we were just like, let's just kick this down the road a little bit. So here we are. Good
Yeah.
times.
We're back. We're healthy. Life is good. And like you said, Austin, sometimes life gets in the way, but
Yeah.
of what you really want to do. But we're official another year, so we have completed our taxes for the 2024 calendar year. So got that done. Bravo. As a business, and that is a learning curve in and of itself. But I think I've got a rhythm for us now.
I'm
I
really
know.
glad you do.
Now we just have to pay the state of North Carolina their cut to be an LLC for another year. I made myself a note not to forget to pay that. So there's another bill, Austin. So be looking forward to that.
Everybody's got them now. Everybody needs the bills.
It's way more than I ever thought to keep an LLC moving and grooving, but I'm glad we're doing it because I love learning the process. So we did that, and people probably don't remember from last episode, but I had like a personal goal by the time Safe and Found, our documentary, reached a year that we would have over 20,000 views on YouTube. And not only did we do that, we're only a couple, maybe 20 away from 26,000 views on YouTube. And we're averaging on a 2-day basis, because YouTube has this way of calculating how a video does. And every 48 hours, we have been averaging about 200 views. It keeps growing. Like, it's just the coolest thing ever because every other day or so, I'll log into our studio and I'm like, oh my God, it's still going. Austin, you got any thoughts on that?
I love it. I love it. It's just every time we see it, it's just reassuring that all of that work and effort on everyone's part paid off, and especially just the fact that more and more people are watching and learning about hiker safety, because ultimately that's why that's why you and I are so passionate about it. It is because ultimately we want it to help people.
Yeah.
And so if more people are watching it, that's more people that at a minimum are just more aware of what's going on around them. So it's honestly, it's just humbling to look back and see the impact that it has on people. And Julie, you've been Johnny on the spot, submitting it to some film festivals. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I won't say the number of festivals I submitted it to.
It doesn't that part doesn't matter.
That part doesn't matter. What matters is we're going to be in 2 upcoming festivals, and we still have some festivals out there for the middle of the year and toward the end of the year that we have applied to and done our thing through this website called Film Freeway. It's like the international website that you have to basically make your own landing page and then apply to be in these festivals. But we got some really cool news. Safe and Found is going to be featured in the River Run International Festival here in North Carolina. More specifically, it's going to be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I wrote the date down. It is going to be, actually, I did not write that date down. I'm going to get out my calendar here. It is going to be Sunday, April the 13th at 2 o'clock at the River Run International Festival. You can see Safe and Found. And even cooler is they are going to have the local outdoor provision store called Great Outdoor Provision. Part of their team is going to be there, and their local search and rescue team is going to be there. And after the movie, they are actually going to have a panel where people could ask questions. And unfortunately, Austin, you're not going to be able to make that.
I know.
And I don't know if I'm actually going to be on the panel, or they're just going to say, these are the, introduce us as the film producers. But what an honor. Oh my gosh.
Right.
When they emailed us and said, hey, we want to have a panel. How cool is that?
It like I said, it just all kind of rings home, because this will be the second search and rescue team, or other than Haywood County, obviously, but like this is the second time another search and rescue team has tagged along and used the film kind of as a platform to talk about what they do and all the amazing things they do, and hiker safety and preventative search and rescue. And so it is doing all of the things that we hoped it would do as a film, just getting the message out. So yeah, it's honestly, I keep saying it, but it's just humbling that all of these folks are impacted in some way. So.
And honestly, just when I think that, because the way the film festival scene works is you really have a year window. So you have a year after your film has released in a lot of these festivals to actually enter. So we knew going into 2025 that 2025 is our year. We're either going to get in these festivals or we're not, right? So Another really cool thing is the emails keep coming. So what was it, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we got an email from an outdoor fest. It's called the Tri-State Outdoor Festival. It's actually in Cumberland, Tennessee. And they have about 5,000 people that attend that festival, or they're predicted this year to have 5,000 people. And they reached out to us and said, would you mind if your film was our feature film to kick off the festival? And I was like, would we mind? Like, how fast can I get it to you?
Yeah,
So,
it's awesome. And like I said, it's just that's that more many people that even if it's just 30 seconds of their life that is taken up by that film, if they have that 30 seconds of just thinking about it, that's enough. Where they're just getting that message out, and at the same time, it's notoriety and some good publicity for our original Haywood County Search and Rescue friends.
yes.
Because it gets their story out there, because they still do all of these amazing things. Even, the film is a year old at this point. We stopped filming over a year ago, but their work has not stopped or slowed down in the least. And so they are still out there doing all these amazing things, and not only helping residents and visitors of Haywood County, but they're using funds to help other surrounding search and rescue teams. So I think that's fantastic. So the impact is it's just one little drop in the water, then all these ripple effects. It's awesome to watch. Quite
So
honestly.
cool. So cool. Every time we get an email in our business account, info@jesterwallisproductions.com, I'm like, oh my gosh, are we in? Are we out? Does somebody want to utilize the film? So I don't know if you noticed, Austin, I cleaned up our email. It looks a little bit better than it did.
I appreciate that. You're always better at that stuff than I am.
I was like, I can't take it anymore. I got to clean this email up. So the first one, the one in April, is Sunday, April 13th. And then the Tri-State Outdoor Fest is July 18th. So it will be shown Friday evening, July 18th. in Cumberland, Tennessee, which is basically on the border of North Carolina and Tennessee, in the western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee mountainous area. So they get a lot of outdoor individuals, whether it's hikers, kayakers. I mean, over 5,000 people, vendors all over the place. And Heidi Nisbet, our artist who did all the artwork for the film, she is actually going to represent us at that festival. Because you and I are going to be out doing adventures of our own because it is summertime. But that's the really cool thing about this film. We had so many partners that we can do that. It's awesome.
Yeah. And Heidi's a perfect fit because she knows she's a hiker. She's an artist. She knows the story of Haywood County. She was with us as we, started muscling through trying to put the story together, and so she was an integral part of the production, and so it's perfect that she's going to be there. I'm even going to talk about some of her work tonight in our episode, going over like how it impacted. Yeah, well, I won't get into that too much, but yeah, Heidi is awesome.
Yeah, so we've got those two things going on. We are still in the running for some other festivals, and we will find out in July. In August, we have an opportunity and a couple in the fall. So 2025 is not over yet, and my fingers are still crossed. And the coolest thing, every time we get into a festival, we get to add, oh my gosh, what's it called that you can add to the artwork? The little
Laurels.
Yes, the laurel.
The bling.
So now we have two blings on our thumbnail. That I forgot the word thumbnail. When you look at the thumbnail on YouTube and any of the artwork that is in our media kit, we can add that as well, which is really cool because then people look at that and go, oh, well, what festivals are they in? Because that laurel is very specific to film festivals. So
Yep.
I know as soon as we get that, Austin puts that on the thumbnail, and I'm like, yes.
It's all about the bling.
It's
Everybody loves
yes.
the
Why
bling.
not? Yeah, we earned that. So anyway, this series, we had a little pause last month, but we are back. We are into episode number 4, which is titled The Rescued. And if you have seen the film, you know that we had a main point around 3 individuals. And this director's cut series has given us an opportunity to kind of show you guys and really show off how a 2-person team put this film together. And I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen here. And the footage that we have, we thought it would be a shame just to keep it in an archive, so to speak. So thus, the director's cut series was born, and we thought it'd be really cool to show you kind of how Austin laid out the film and kind of broke it down how we put this together. So this is the point in the episode where I actually turn it over to Austin, and Austin can take it away.
Yeah. Well, so the whole point of showing the footage this way is to kind of just give you a glimpse of the editing process, and hopefully an appreciation for the product that you see, the finished product that you see out there on YouTube. So all of the footage that we show in these director's cuts episodes are, the sound isn't done. We haven't trimmed up any of the sound. I haven't done any types of color correction or adjusting. So that's why the image looks kind of flat or dark or anything like that. It's because I haven't, that's how it comes out of the camera. So, so last episode we talked about the team, and highlighted some folks from the search and rescue team in Haywood County. And so this episode, we're going to talk about the 2 folks that were featured in the film that were rescued by the team. So Christine Bowman and David Crockett. And there were some really incredible interviews. David especially struck me because he literally he and his friend almost died. and in their minds they were going to die. And so being with him, Julie and I being with him in that moment as he recounts this story, you can tell that it affects him just thinking about it. And he's got that emotional trauma still. So it was very I felt very fortunate to that he would even allow us in because it was a very personal story that he's sharing with us. Um, so it was humbling in that regard, but I'm also extremely thankful for both of them for sharing their story because ultimately it's part of the hiker safety message that we put out. Um, but
And yeah, when
anyways,
we interview these guys, I'm just now and as we go through this, it's cool for us too because I start remembering things.
yeah,
We interviewed both Christine and David on the same day and talk about
right.
emotionally drained. You and I were, we were pretty drained because these interviews are well over an hour.
Mm,
And then what you see in the film for each of them is about 10 to 12 minutes. So
yeah.
yeah, you're taking an hour. I think Christine's interview was about an hour and a half.
Yeah, Christine. Well, we talked about a lot in Christine's interview, um, but just as a reminder, the first person that we're going to talk about or show the footage from is Christine Bowman, and she was the hiker that did everything right. She planned, she prepared, she told people where she was going. She was out with someone. She had her 10 essentials, and then stuff happens and she misstepped, and well, she had a significant injury, and I'll let her talk about it. But what we want to talk about is kind of the parts that didn't make the film, obviously, and so part of that was most of what made the film was kind of her rescue and how she got to that point, her reaction to the team, and then kind of her exfiltration. Um, but then the thing that uh, I think made the film, but only briefly, was this just emotional void when because once the team gets her to the ambulance and the ambulance takes off to go to the hospital, there's no goodbyes, there's no um, like, hey, let me get your phone number so we can reconnect somewhere. It's just bye, and so that was tough. And I imagine for both sides, both Christine and the team. And so what was really cool was during the premiere of the film last January, was Christine actually got to meet some of the folks that carried her out that night for the first time since that night. And so that was a really special moment to just be able to witness. Um, but yeah, so I'll go ahead and start. We've been talking a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and start showing some footage. So this first clip is just Christine talking about recovering from kind of her emotional and her physical recovery from the injury.
Was there an ambulance waiting at a certain
Yes.
point?
Yes. So we got down to the trailhead, to the Ivester Gap trailhead,
Right where all that mess is.
right where all that mess is. There's an ambulance there waiting for me. Um, they load me up to the ambulance. Everybody's going to part ways now. And that was emotional, right? Because here are these people came out to save me. And they're just going to go away. I don't know who they are. I don't know much about them. I had asked names, but that information had already gone out of my head. Um, I remember the two EMTs were extremely young and they were just heroes. And they loaded me in an ambulance and took me to Mission Hospital in Asheville. And I remember them. So at that point, as soon as I got on the ambulance, they switched me over to morphine because they had administered a less powerful drug out in the fields. And so I knew I was going to get even more loopy. And they said, we're going to take you to one of the best orthopedists in the region and who specializes in trauma orthopedics. And we took a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride on the parkway in the ambulance. And I remember very clearly, because again, I was not allowed to sleep, even though I was under medical watch at that point. I was hooked up to everything. The driver radioing back and saying, "We just passed a 6-point buck." And I'm thinking, I don't really need that to be part of my story today. And they got me to the hospital, and from there, I had surgery the next morning. Um, so it turns out I had 4 breaks in my leg. I broke my tibia, which is your shin bone, broke my fibula. So when you get a twisting injury, that energy transfers and it breaks your fibula. And then I broke my ankle in 2 places. So I now have a titanium rod um, stabilizing my tibia, and which is held in by 2 screws up here and 2 screws down here. And I have 2 screws which basically have fused my tibia to my ankle bone. And I can have those removed in a year's time if I want to. So overall, from there, it was, a recovery period.
So, how are you mentally? So, since we're pretty close to, your accident, it's not like it's years.
Right. We're getting up to the 1-year anniversary
So,
here.
my question to you is, are you mentally recovered?
Absolutely not. So, even just driving out here today, knowing that I was coming to the crime scene, so to speak, I knew that some emotions would be coming up.
Because I never thought that through.
No. No, it's part of the process, right? It's part of the healing process. So, I talked about those dark thoughts that go through your mind when you're injured and you're helpless, really. Then you go through another dark spell. Well, at least I did, and I think this would be common for most active people who are suddenly laid up, where you are not allowed to do anything because you've broken a bone. It takes at least 6 weeks to regrow a bone. And you're wondering, are you going to be able to get back to doing the things that you love? So
you said absolutely not. When I said, are you over it? You said absolutely not. So what does that mean?
So I think I'm going to have to go back to the location to really face the devil. So I've gone out hiking since then. My children and I, in July, we camped down near Brevard, and we went out for the day on the southern end of the Art Loeb Trail. And I will say, when I read that trail sign, there was a little shiver that went through me of, this is the same line that traverses these mountains, and if I kept walking north, I'm gonna encounter that spot, right? Yeah. But that day, my kids were really into the hike. We had a great day, and I think that just helped boost my confidence. I think I just had to regain some confidence. Remember that I'm not 25 years old anymore. I'm 47. It takes longer to bounce back from injuries. Maybe the body can't move as quickly as it once did. Maybe, a woman recently asked me, she really asked a group of hikers that I'm a member of online in South Carolina. She said, how is it that all of you go out and do these things alone? And my comment to her was, there's no merit badge for doing it alone. And based on my experience last October, I'm going to carefully assess the potential risk of a situation. And I think my days of doing things like that alone are over. So I think I'm going to have to go back. We're going to be camping up here again in October, me and my family. So I think we're going to at least go out, maybe not to that exact spot because that's a little deep in the wilderness for my 7-year-old, but out to the trails in that area, get above tree line, see those views, which are healing in their own right. And I always have said, like, when I'm hiking, like, got to trust your feet, you got to, and trust your instincts. and just try to get my confidence back, you know.
I thought it was interesting how she talked about that assessment. Um, she's an experienced hiker. We talked about that a little bit in the film. But Christine's been there and done that with hiking. And so what struck me is, she represents the demographic of experienced hikers that we want to connect with, because there's all different people on the trail from inexperienced, the full spectrum of experience. And so she's one of the more experienced. And so it's easy for experienced hikers to become complacent or to become overconfident. And I'm not insinuating that Christine was, but that, but what she does is that assessment. Is this still something that I should do or something that I want to do? Um, and so, she's doing that assessment for herself. We all have to do that, whether, just no matter what the experience level is. Um, you know, is this something I should do? Is this something I want to do? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is this a good idea? So I think that's very important, an important point that all of us should listen to, because I've been guilty of it, where I have either not done that assessment properly and become overconfident and gotten myself into things that I probably would prefer not to be in. Uh, but yeah, that was what struck me just as we rewatch this.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. And Christine is such a awesome person. I mean, she really opened her heart up to
Yeah,
us, and she does represent the person that has a lot of experience. In the film, she talks about her experience in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and what she's used to in these particular areas and what to carry and what to bring. And in the film, she represents, we had three basically definitions: bad luck. And really, what she had, truthfully, was just bad luck. And
yeah,
you are exactly right. She represents the demographic of hiker, outdoors person that we really want to see this film as well. This is not a film where, oh, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, we all think we know what we're doing, but we want you to just
until we
think
don't.
until we don't. There you go.
Right.
So I am just so thankful that we connected with her and she shared that with us. And just following her on Facebook a little bit, I know she's been back out hiking. She is back running now. And I think she is probably still a little hesitant, because we all are if you have a trauma. I mean, it's not like you forget the trauma, but she is out back hiking now.
Yeah, which is awesome. So the next series of clips is kind of a few different topics, but selfishly, I just wanted to put it in there because she talks about our involvement in her process. We've talked about that a little bit already with this clip, but it was very neat that she would bring us into that process with her, just talking about the incident and allowing us to put her on camera and everything like that. But she also talked a little bit about the team too, so we'll go ahead and play it. Oh, I remember
You
why I
know,
left this
and
in here. Uh, one of the funny things about some of the things in the film. Uh, so this was filmed uh, within earshot of the Blue Ridge Parkway. And I say earshot because we got all the traffic noise and everything like that. We just got lucky with the sound, where it didn't come in key parts of the conversation. Uh, but it was one of those little goat trails off of a lookout off the parkway. And when we were scouting locations, I was like, surely no one will come down here because there's no reason to come down this little nothing trail. It doesn't go anywhere. But sure enough, we found somebody. So they walked right through our interview, which was fantastic.
And he had conversations. Don't fall down the mountain. I know, I'm like, um,
This is fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
or south. Um,
With 911 three different times over a course of 55 hours. So sitting here, like, having you all live, giving your experiences affects us as well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And
Well, now you all have become part of my story, right? This is a continuation
yeah,
of the story. And for me,
it's continuing education, no pun intended,
so yeah.
but
And one of the reasons that I agreed to do this was to get to that healing, to get it's processing it.
do I need to move?
No, I'm just making sure.
Okay.
That the focus is right.
Well, before we wrap up, how did you connect with Nancy?
Nancy reached out to me and said,
Mother, I'm telling you right now, like,
yeah, so she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm part of Haywood County Search and Rescue. Um, my crew or our crew, uh, was that these are the members that were out there for your rescue.
you want to have her do this
There's like a
again?
huge bus going by.
Because it was just like.
So Nancy reached out to me and had said that I wasn't out there at the time because I was off on, I think, another adventure. and I missed it.
And they don't like it when they miss it.
Right. Well, and I'm sure my father was a firefighter, career firefighter. Okay, when somebody trains that hard and long and has the skills necessary to help somebody, they feel a little bit left out when they are like, I wasn't there for that. I missed that. Not that it's like a happy occasion that you're missing, but you're you do all that training and all that readiness for a reason. You want to use it to help people, right? You have sort of this internal mission, and then you don't get to use those skills. So Nancy reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to do this. She had just said that she felt my personality might be a good mesh, which is interesting because she had never met me. But maybe got some interesting feedback from her team.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, she told us because we were asking, as we were building the story. Sure. And she said, "You guys
Huge
got
shout out to
talk
Nancy
to
East.
Christine."
yeah.
She made that magic happen. Because Christine, not only did she recount her story, but like there were so many great nuggets of footage that we were able to use throughout the film from her interview talking about preventative search and rescue and that kind of thing. So, Nancy, if you're watching, big old high five. Thank you.
Yeah, we love you, Nancy. And honestly, we could take Christine's footage and make an just like literal hiker safety educational piece of its own. And that's the really cool thing about all this stuff that we have recorded and now it's kind of archived is that it is all nuggets of gold. It was all nuggets of
Yeah.
gold.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, we'll move on. So the next person we're going to talk about is David Crockett. And so just kind of a refresher. So David Crockett and his friend were coming up from Charlotte and we're just looking for kind of like a loop trail in the Shining Rock Wilderness area and pulled something up on All Trails and didn't know what they didn't know and ended up being very unprepared for what was going to happen. And so the real neat thing about David is that he works or did some work with, this is all after the incident, Lane from the team reached out to him and was trying to kind of recreate what actually happened. And so he worked with Lane and helped him with some continuing education and that kind of thing. And so it was, again, it struck me as very generous that he was willing to recount his story to us on camera again, for all for the greater good. So, um, one of the things kind of in the film, when we recount his story, we don't really talk a lot about, you know, the initial, like what got them there. We kind of just gloss over it. Honestly, David's interview was one of the most difficult pieces to edit because we were just kind of crunched for time, and it's a self-imposed limit, but we didn't want Safe and Found to be 4 hours long. We really wanted to keep it to that 45 minutes to an hour, and we ended up with 42 minutes, which was just right. But in order to do that, we had to cut a whole bunch. And David's story, when I built David's timeline out and combined it with the interviews from the team that talked about, you know, from their perspective, it was well over an hour by itself of all the, and that was refined down. And so I had to cut more and more and more. And I remember one of our Zoom meetings, Julie, and
I was like,
like
nope, gotta
you,
cut, gotta cut.
you got to do it, and I'm like, I don't want to. It's just, and it was really difficult. We managed to cut it down. But in that process, obviously, we had to take parts of the interviews out, and so this part just is him talking about what got them there in the first place, how they chose the trailhead. We were very close. The interview where we ended up taking it was very close to where they actually started. And Julie, you had the genius idea because originally we were just going to set up some chairs and kind of do what we did with Christine. But you had the idea to actually follow David, like and do the interview in different places along the trail, and it was so fun. Um,
I don't know what made me
uh,
come up with that morning, but I mean, it would just hit me when I got out of the car. I was like, we should just walk on the trail and like see, you know, kind of where we end up.
yeah, well, it just felt really natural too.
Yeah.
And I hope that came through in the film. It just felt like we were on a hike and he was just talking about what happened. So that was really neat. So yeah, we'll go ahead and hit play here.
And then it looks like you guys were just trying to do a loop, take a right turn, and come back down to here. And then that's where things kind of got crazy. And this is just me just looking at a map.
Yep.
So, kind of the first thing I thought we would do is have you stand by this Big East Fork trailhead and kind of talk us through how you ended up here. What was the original intent?
Yeah, sure. So David Crockett, I am now 30 years old, but this would have been almost 7 years ago. So we went out on January 5th, 2017, and we were rescued on the evening of January 7th, 2017.
So you spent approximately a couple days, you spent 2 nights out.
Right, it was about 55 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were going out for, looking for like a day hike. We parked the car around 12:30 p.m. and yeah, just we were going to go out. We found this trail, Shining Rock Wilderness Trail. It was an 8-mile loop. We were like, we could do that in a day. So yeah, we set out thinking we'd be back in a couple hours.
Now, where did you find this map? Was it something that you looked up beforehand? Did you look at the kiosk?
On the commute from Charlotte to Asheville, I found the trail on All Trails app. It looked like a good one.
So did you have All Trails downloaded on your phone?
I did.
Okay. So you guys at least had that mapping system with you.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Walk us through what you had on you. So you were going out for a run. Mm-hmm. You probably weren't, this is the first time, to this area. You'd never been here before, right?
Right.
So you guys are getting ready. What are you wearing? It's January, and what do you take with you?
So I had on this backpack that I'm wearing now, and in it, I had just some Sour Patch Kids, some pretzels, a little bit of water, and I was wearing some like athleisure wear. I think I had a couple layers of like on. So, because during the day it was. And then I was wearing Vans high tops. I wasn't wearing hiking shoes. Um, yeah, that's what I had on.
Did you guys have any water? Did you have?
Yeah, we had some water, and we had a few snacks. Yeah, just a couple snacks.
How common does that sound? Like just the level of preparation and the level, what they had on them. Like I'm just as I listen to the footage, I'm like, how many people have I passed on the trail? The day hikers and the people that are clearly not experienced in the outdoors. How many people are just like that, or even less prepared? You know,
I think
so
some
I
places it's more like that than a prepared hiker. More
right,
unprepared than prepared.
right, and so that's what resonated was just like this really this really can happen to people if the if the conditions are just right, or in this case just wrong. um a very nonchalant, just, hey, let's go out for an 8 mile hike, or let's just go out, we're only going to be out for a few hours. Like how many times have we seen that? And most of the time things are fine, admittedly. um, but we can see how quickly things can go bad in David's case. um, and just the series of bad choices, because like you said, uh, I'm sorry, bad choices, bad preparation, bad luck. But just through a series of bad choices and some bad preparation, they got off trail, and now all of a sudden they're in a really bad way. Um, but I that was what struck me as like it, like that just sounds like so many people that we've passed on trail before, that I've seen. So, um, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I thought you were
Sometimes
gonna. I'm sorry, I thought you were gonna hit play. I was gonna be quiet. That's normally not like me.
well, no, when I normally, like if it goes silent like that, I'm like, oh, something's messed up.
No, we're still
Sorry.
here.
All right, I will go ahead and hit play. So the next series of clips is just talking about, um, again, we kind of glossed over it in the film of they start out, but then they just slowly, through a series of unfortunate events and decisions, um, get off trail. So we kind of go in a little more depth for this next case, or this next clip.
Yeah, so we started hiking um, the trail, and it's pretty steep in the beginning. It's a steep climb, so we definitely had to stop for breath. But yeah, once we reached we were maybe a couple hours in. I think this probably would have been about 3 or 3:30. We phone still had battery, so we looked where we were on the loop trail. We weren't quite halfway. It was like 3 or 3:30, and we're like, Sultan had brought up, should we? He said, should we turn back? I don't think we can make it, but I said no, we can do it. So let's continue on. So we did.
Were you thinking about the weather? So we talked about what you guys had on. You're climbing. You're probably hot. You're sweating. Did you guys have any idea there was a storm coming?
I knew that I had heard that there may be some flurries in Charlotte that weekend, but no, we didn't look at the weather before we came home because we weren't planning on being here. It was supposed to just be a couple hours. Yeah.
You decided, no, let's go for it. Let's do it. You weren't concerned about the weather. You're almost to the halfway point. What is your mindset then?
Yeah, it was just it was, as time passed, we sped up faster and faster and try to race the sun to try to get back to the car. Um, and unfortunately, at some point, as we were sort of running down the trail, we ventured off of the trail. So we were running very fast and going somewhere, but we weren't going in the right direction towards the car.
At any point were you like, uh-oh, were you scared, or did anything pop up in your mind like, are we going to make it?
Um, I think he really wanted it to make it like back to the car. I mean, I did as well, but I don't know that I was scared at that point. Um, I don't know. I wasn't scared. I was sort of curious, I thought even, I mean, the weather was fine. It was a little chilly, but it wasn't snowing. Um, and I didn't think it would be the worst thing if we were out and we had to camp out and then go back the next day and find our way back.
Okay, so say that again. So you didn't think it would be the worst thing if you had to camp out?
Yes, I didn't think at the time it would have been the end of the world if we were forced to like spend the night like somewhere just in the forest, and we could try to sleep and then find our way back to the car the next morning.
So are you guys having a conversation about this? Listen, we're not going to make it back to the car. What are you saying to each other?
Yeah, we're saying, yeah, we're not gonna make it back tonight. We'll wait till morning till we have sunlight because we can't do much in the dark. Um, so
What were your emotions? Were you like angry? Were you upset? Were you scared? Like emotionally, where are you? And then where was he?
yeah, I think we both were. I don't know. I think taken back and like surprised that we had sort of gotten ourselves into this. Um, I mean, we had each other, so I'm glad we weren't alone. Um, but yeah, we were definitely surprised that we're having to do this. Um, but we stayed positive and knew that, once we had sunlight, we would try to make our way back.
One of the things I remember, Mike Street, the director of the team, was talking about this, and I remember his statement was I can fix this, I can fix this, I can't fix this, and that's exactly what happened with David. Was they're like, we can fix this, this isn't a big deal, this isn't a big deal, and then all of a sudden it was a really big deal. Um, but I thought it was interesting where he's like, yeah, if we gotta stay out overnight, I guess that's okay. So it really hadn't sunk in yet, um,
Yeah.
that things were going to be going bad.
And as we watch this, I just want to, for the audience watching this, David was very vulnerable and coming out to chat with us. And I don't want anybody to think like, oh my God, he's crazy. What was he talking about? Why weren't they doing this or that? Um, he's sharing his story and, being very vulnerable with us. So, and this is the reason that, he agreed to be in the film, is because hearing his story could save lives. And, experienced hikers sometimes take for granted their knowledge and forget how they got their knowledge. We all have to learn and we all have to be educated. So, as people watch this, David was very vulnerable in telling us all this information.
Yeah, and I think I just want to reiterate, like, the things that he is talking about and the situations, the conditions that he's talking about, um, happen a lot. Like the choices and the level of preparation, that many people out on trail choose to do, it's very common. And so the things that he is talking about, yeah, well, we trying to run and kind of outrun the sun and try to get back to the car, and and as soon as stress levels go up, the fine motor skills go down. You start making mistakes without realizing it. Um, and so that's the hopefully the point that gets through is, he's like you said, he's putting himself out there, which
Yeah.
is very generous, very admirable. Um, but this is not criticism against David, because the things that got him into that situation were very easy things, easy mistakes for him to make based on experience and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. So I mean, it would not be hard for someone to replicate this without knowing. Um, so yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
very grateful that he was willing to talk to us. So this last one, like I said, this turned out to be a very emotional, very personal interview, because there were times where, and Julie, I'm giving you kudos here, because you're very good at interviewing people and just getting people to open up. And so there were many times where David stopped talking, and you could tell he's thinking and he's recounting the events in his head. And you let that silence happen. You didn't try to fill that silence with something, or ask a question, or try to prompt him. You just kind of let him work through it, and then he would talk. And so I don't think I didn't leave the 30-second silences in there, but yeah, that was something that kind of struck me. And then, you know, what he said about, the when they start getting towards the end of day two, and they're in their last night, they wake up on their final morning, and just the utter despair um, that both of them were feeling. I don't think that anyone who hasn't had those feelings before can truly appreciate. Um, if you haven't been in a life or death situation where you've had to truly face your own mortality, um, it's difficult to describe that to people. And so, uh, David, I think, did an amazing job at trying to describe that for us. And it really came through, and it registered with me. It's just like, my goodness, like he really was facing death. He was preparing himself for his own death. Um, so it was just wildly impactful for me, and I hope that came through in the film too. So I'll go ahead and hit play here.
So the morning of day 3, you guys survived the second night.
Yes.
What's next?
So, yeah, this was I think, up until this point, I think I was sort of the strong one. I was the one who, like, between Solon and I was the strong, like, emotionally, mentally, like, let's go, we can do this, we're going to be found, like, let's carry on. But at this point,
So did you have to make yourself do that, or was that your innate mindset, this is what's happening?
yeah, that was just me. That was just my innate mindset. And but yeah, once morning 3 came, we were alive. We had survived the snow, but we're I mean, we're frozen. The snow is piled up around us. It had to be a foot at least of snow. And we're still in the same spot. They told us not to move. We're still there. But my mind is gone. I'm like, I don't know what to do. My first thought was that we should still stay there and not move, because they may find us. And then Sultan was like, no, if we're not going to make it out of this forest, this is not going to be the last place that I don't want to be found here. Like, we need to continue on. We need to still try. So after a couple minutes thinking about it, he's got up from our little shelter, sort of outside of it. I'm starting to put on my damp socks and my shoes.
When you wait a minute. When you say you're starting to put on your damp socks, did you have other stuff or
No, they're the same. I didn't have any.
no? But you weren't barefoot.
No, I was, yeah, during the night, because I was trying, the shoes and socks came off to try to dry them out by the fire. So whenever we had fire, we try to like dry them out, because again, we're walking around in damp shoes and socks, wet. So anyway, they didn't completely dry out. They were still damp.
Your feet on the fire? I'm trying to figure out how your extremities kept warm.
Yeah, the feet were near the fire. Yeah.
All right. This is where Heidi started working her magic. So this is one of the pieces of artwork that Heidi created for us based on this part of the interview. And so Heidi actually details how we did a podcast with her and Wim right before the premiere. And she details her full process and how she created this art. So I'll refer you up to that episode to give her proper credit for her process. But this is where this print, and it's the thumbnail for the episode tonight, because this was the one, I think, Julie, that registered with us the most.
Oh,
just
yeah.
like that, the feeling of the cold and, bare feet in the snow. And so when we were talking to Heidi, like trying to figure out what to ask her to create, this was probably one of the first ones where we're like, I think we gave her access to the interviews and like, this is what he's talking about. And then she just took the ball and ran and created this amazing.
Yeah, she nailed it. I mean, yeah, when we got that, I was like, all right, we definitely made a good decision in bringing Heidi in to, recreate these prints visually for people. And fantastic. This is my favorite one, hands down.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
It's just you almost feel it looking.
Yeah.
When you look at it, your toes get a little cold maybe.
And now that people can hear him talking about this, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I don't think this part of the interview actually made the final cut. So nobody, or maybe it did. I can't remember. But yeah. So we give a little context to this art.
Yeah.
That this was inspired by his story. It wasn't just something that we picked out.
Yeah,
So,
I think the clip, he's talking about being by the fire, but the part where he's like, no, we're barefoot. Like, we're barefoot. That didn't make it. But, now there's kind of context to it.
yeah, very cool. I can't remember if we keep going, but I'm just going to hit play here.
Yeah. And then what?
We get to, we're so exhausted at this point. We find like shelter, but it's just like a big evergreen tree. And the idea was that this was going to be, like, this was it. Like, we're going to, our last hope of being found, like, we're going to light this tree on fire. And yeah, so once we got there, we start to try that process of lighting the tree on fire. And because I'm like, if we can light this entire tree aflame, there's no way we won't be found. But it wasn't that easy to light the whole tree. So I mean, we definitely charred it. We had some kind of smoke going, but so we had this little fire going, and I remember Sultan saying, like, David, you have to put like warm up your hands, like put your hands like near the fire, put your feet near the fire. And I just I remember him like continuing to like motivate me to like do that, because I was just like so just done that I didn't really care anymore. I couldn't feel my fingers or my toes, and I just didn't. Yeah, I just had lost all hope at that point.
What do you think would have happened had they not found you that day on that third day?
Yeah, I think it was I would not be well. I don't think that I would have made it through the night. I don't I don't know if Sultan would have either. Um, yeah, because we were just frozen, and I was so gone mentally that it was like I didn't want to try anymore. I didn't even want to warm my fingers and my toes in the fire. Um, so yeah, I don't think I could have made it another day.
What do you think you would have done?
Um,
Would you guys just have sat down?
yeah, I think we would have just sat down underneath that tree. Um, which I think I actually probably did that some anyway. Um, Probably between like the first helicopter spotting us and like getting there. Um, yeah. Yeah, I had no intentions of moving or hiking anymore. Um, so I was just gonna stay put.
Hmm.
You could tell that was one of his long breaths there.
Yep.
I appreciate the kudos you gave me, but honestly, when he did it a couple times, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I feel like he is
Well, you pulled it off.
literally right there again. That was my first initial thought. Like, don't say anything. He doesn't even have a clue we're here. Like, that was my thought. Like, he is back right in that situation. And I was like, well, we'll just be silent as long as we need to be. And that's kind of really, I had no thought process except we just have to let him do what he needs to do. And he came out here for us. So however long this takes is however long it takes was my thought behind that. Yeah.
Well, it worked out. It worked
Yeah.
out.
It's very moving. His entire interview, very moving, and I'm very appreciative. And ironically enough, he and I only live a couple miles apart from each other, back here in Charlotte. So I keep up with him on Instagram, and David is married now, so he is moving on with life and probably still processing. And I know him and Nancy keep in touch as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lifelong bond there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So these two interviews, we still have more footage. I mean, you know what? We could do like a director's cut, like a telethon. Like literally we could go all day long and show behind the scenes footage of what we have. And I do recommend that if you have not seen minimally episode number 2 with our roundtable discussion with 3 gentlemen, that they very specifically discuss David and his rescue. And one of the things that'll resonate with me forever and ever and ever is the final comment. They would not be alive without a Bic lighter. Pretty much. If he somehow, I don't know if it was David or Sultan, one of them smoked, I think, and they had a lighter. If I'm remembering that correctly. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah. Yeah. David said he at the time had smoked, and that was why he had the lighter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that fire saved their lives. And I think even Nancy talked about it too. Like if they didn't have that fire, they literally would have frozen to death.
And hey, I'd be lighting a tree on fire too. Like anything.
I'd light all the trees on fire. Sorry for Forest Service, but
anything at this point. And I laugh at Jess, but I would have done that too. I mean,
yeah, and that goes back to my point. Like I don't think any of us can sit here and try to judge, because unless you have been in a life and death situation and faced what he has faced, my gosh, just can't even imagine.
So yeah, we've got 4 of these. This will be episode number 4. I just looked who is up next, and it's Nancy.
Yep. I did the same thing. I was pulling it up to see what we had planned. So yeah, we've got all kinds of Nancy East coming up for our next next episode. Everything. I think we're gonna. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I think we need to
'cause
do
she,
some bloopers as well because we had some good bloopers with Nancy.
or Nancy. She what? So I'll give a little inkling. So one of the crazy things we asked Nancy to do, and she did. She was fantastic. She did it all for us. But she wrote a book, and the beginning of the book talks about a search that was very special and meaningful for her, and ended up being a part of the film. And so we actually had her read her book to the camera. And so the first cut, she read it, and it was kind of like, uh, and I say this with love, but
We love you,
it did
Nancy,
not
if you're watching this.
it did not sound very good.
That was
And
kind of
so,
robotic, but we had
yeah,
thrown that on her at the last second.
right. And so
yeah.
we reapproached, and I'm like, okay, can you read it like you're talking, like you're trying to explain it to somebody? And and then we both had to walk away. Like I just hit the cameras, hit record on the cameras, and Nancy's out on her patio reading her book to two cameras, and Julie and I went inside and let her be, and we had to let her come in and get us when she was done. So it was a fun process. But it turned out it had some good fruit from that tree because we ended up using sound bites from that
Yeah.
to talk about and we used those in the film. So it worked out. So thank you, Nancy, for bearing with us and doing all the crazy things that we asked you to do because it turned out pretty well. I'm
And
happy.
sorry about the bloopers in advance. So we'll be back hopefully the first week of April, unless, life. I know you're going on hiatus for some time in April, but I think we pre-scheduled this like the first week maybe. I'll have to look at the calendar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we want to continue with this. The next one is Nancy. I highly, highly recommend going back. Our first episode was with Elizabeth Clements. Our second episode was the roundtable discussion with the three guys. We have the sheriff, the lead of Haywood County Search and Rescue Team, and then the former, what was Greg Shuping's title?
The director of emergency services for Haywood County.
There you go. All three of those guys. What a hoot. That episode in and of itself, very valuable information. And then obviously tonight, The Rescued. And then we have to come up with a title for Nancy's episode. We have to think about that.
Brainstorm that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So y'all, we truly appreciate it. I don't have anything else. Austin, you have anything else?
No. For those of you that have logged in tonight to watch with us, we very much appreciate you.
Yes.
It's part of the fun part of doing these live podcasts is, I understand not everybody can log in, but seeing your comments over here and everything like that, it's just it's fun. It makes it fun. So I appreciate you logging in and watching along with us. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, we're here. We're still out here. We are still moving and grooving. Jester Wallis Productions still exist. So I have proof in our taxes, and we will officially be paying the North Carolina LLC bill for another year. So we are still here, and we've got some things potentially in the works that we're going to be working on in the future. And the main thing are those film festivals, and we are excited. So, folks, we'll sign off for now, and we'll see you next month.